Quezon City, Philippines. Quezon City in the northeast of Metro Manila has a land area of about 166.2 square kilometers. It is the largest local government in Metro Manila, covering about 25% of the National Capital Region and comprising 142 barangays. Quezon City is located on the Guadalupe Plateau. Quezon Memorial Circle in the city center is dominated by an Art Deco style memorial to former President Manuel L. Quezon. The surrounding gardens contain playgrounds, fountains, and the World Peace Bell Monument. Ninoy Aquino Parks and Wildlife Center is a zoo and botanical garden with a lagoon, crocodiles, and peacocks. In 2002, Quezon City had a population of almost 2.2 million, 22% of the population of Metro Manila, and the largest of any local government in the Philippines. Quezon City was actually the capital of the Philippines for 28 years. Founded in 1939 by former President Manuel L. Quezon. It was established during the American Commonwealth period, and from then, the Quezon City map expanded further. Like other cities, behind those beautiful infrastructures, progressive economy, friendly environment, kind-hearted people in Quezon City, they also face urban poor and disorders. A large section of the population of Quezon City, including informal settlers occupying government and private lands, is in need of better shelter. In 2002, the city had about 155,000 informal settler families and 54,000 families living in a doubled-up households. The land tenure program implemented over the past 12 years gives legal ownership of land to only 4,549 informal settler families. According to the Shelter Development Framework Plan, about 102,000 informal settlers live in areas that can be improved and for which legal tenure can be provided, and the other 53,000 informal settler families must be relocated. The National Statistics Coordination Board has set a poverty threshold of 8,858 pesos in monthly take-home pay, placing many of the city's workers who also need housing like the informal settlers at or near the poverty line. About 25,000 new housing units are needed annually for new households, doubled-up households, and the homeless. Quezon City has traditionally tried to solve its shelter problem through its community mortgage program. But the processing of projects has been slowed by the existence of squatter syndicates and bureaucratic red tape, and program effectiveness has been largely negated by rapid population growth. The city needs a more dynamic strategy that can quickly address the housing needs of a much larger group of beneficiaries. Prices and construction costs that were too high and repayment rates that were too low rendered unsustainable the socialized housing programs of the past. These programs involve large subsidies that the city government could not afford. Moreover, housing strategies were generally ad hoc, and the responsibility for housing delivery and squatter prevention was tossed from one administrator to another. To provide a mechanism for the participation of people's organizations and non-governmental organizations in drafting policy recommendations on shelter, the City Council passed an ordinance creating the Quezon City Local Housing Board in January 2002. Chaired by the mayor, the board has 15 members, including 7 representatives of POs and NGOs. Among other powers, the board recommends local shelter plans and assists in the formulation of amendments to the city's land use plan. Furthermore, to depoliticize the implementation of its shelter and urban renewal program, Quezon City has set up its own HURA and is developing it into a modern, efficient, and people-centered organization that will solve the housing problems and facilitate urban renewal in the city. HURA was created as a city government corporation under a recently signed Ordinance 2003. This has given the city government a special purpose vehicle with the management flexibility to raise and leverage funds for sustainable urban renewal and low-cost housing. With the private sector and the civil society, HURA will facilitate the implementation of a shelter and urban renewal program that is sustainable and professionally managed, recognizes market realities, and is in-demand-led. HURA will facilitate or promote 1. Urban renewal and redevelopment through the upgrading or redevelopment of slums and other blind urban communities, the construction of resettlement sites, and the development of vacant and underutilized land owned by the city government. And lastly, the development of affordable housing that satisfies the demand of marginal and low-income families. The intended beneficiaries of HURA's housing program are slum dwellers or informal settlers and other low-income families. Quezon City's development framework for shelter responds with the goal of providing residents with access to affordable housing. The specific objectives of the framework are the following: to improve living conditions in depressed areas by providing secure land tenure and basic services, to undertake programs to help poor communities increase their income and become better able to pay for housing, to facilitate the development of new low-cost housing sites for low-income groups, to facilitate the development of resettlement sites for families relocated from danger zones, from land needed for infrastructure projects, and from other areas, and to acquire lands for socialized housing. To assist the government of Quezon City in refining and implementing its shelter and urban renewal program, a proposal for technical assistance has been submitted to the Cities of Alliance for funding. The proposed assistance would finance consulting services for the preparation of a corporate plan for HURA. More specifically, the consultants would define the target market and the business approach of HURA, determine how HURA will pursue its mandate by defining the scope of its operations, prepare the necessary corporate, financial, and business plans, and design and document general policies, procedures, and operating guidelines for HURA.